And we will call to order the February 15th Committee of the Whole meeting. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Dunn.
Yes, here.
Block.
Here.
Petty. Here. Malaco.
Here.
Keen.
Here.
Gustafson. Here.
Thank you. We'll move into item 3, approval of the minutes from the February 1st Committee of the Whole meeting. And I've so far gotten all the dates right, so I'm doing better than last week. There are a motion to approve minutes.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Keen. Was that your trustee Plotkin?
No, Malaco.
Malaco.
Opposed, Block. You vote Block. Sure. All right.
Any comments or discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Who was the second
Second
administration?
was trustee Plot, trustee Keen, and trustee Plot.
Thank you. Gustafson.
Yes.
Malaco.
Yes.
Keen.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Block.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 4, public comment. Mike? Oh, any public comment? No comment, all right. And I think everyone else online is going to be presenting upcoming, so we'll move into new business. Item 5.1 is a presentation by Text by Gov. If you recall, we, as part of the budget, we appropriated money to enter an agreement with Text by Gov. This is a two-way communication platform between the village and residents of Roscoe. I'll turn this over to Spencer and Preston here to go through some stuff, a little overview, and then some specifics about what we've been working on. We have been having a series of what we call build-out meetings to sort of create the architecture and the paths behind the responses that people will get as they initiate their way through the process. If you think about it as sort of a diverging geometric pattern, it starts with them just indicating a couple keywords to start a process, and probably stealing the presentation, but from there it gives them more options, and from there it gives them more to things related to the village specifically, and the village as a community. So I think I'm going to turn it over to the guys. We have Spencer and Preston on from Text My Gov. Gentlemen, can you hear us fine?
Yep, I can hear you great. Scott, can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you, and if you're able to take over a screen, please feel free to do so. The floor will be yours.
Awesome. I appreciate it. All right, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so like Scott had mentioned, this is something we've been working on, Preston as well, over the last couple of weeks at the very least. Just so you guys have an idea as an overview again, we work exclusively with local government, so villages, towns, cities, counties across the United States and in Illinois specifically. And the whole purpose of our system is simply to be able to engage and increase communications with the residents. So once again, just kind of before I go into it, just so you have an overview. Couple things about the system is that for the residents to use the system, they actually don't need to do anything extra. So they don't have to download an app on their phone. They just simply will text to a local number that we have already provided to you guys, a local area code number, and they just simply text from their cell phones using their capabilities they already have in order to use the system. And then I'll show you the configurability is really key here, kind of like Scott had mentioned. We've created a whole bunch of responses for you guys for information pertaining to the village. So I'm going to pull up the internal side here. So I switch my screen over. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. But this is the internal side of Text My Gov. So it's just from the village standpoint managed from the village itself on this website. And those staff who are involved have login information to access this. Just so you guys are aware off the bat. So like I mentioned, we've purchased a local area code number for you guys. This is that number right here. And we wanted to keep it simple and easy for the residents to remember and to use. And we recommend that they save it in their phones once the system officially goes live. The other thing as well is that our system is 100% FOIA compliant. So our system will track all the messages that come in and out of the system. Our system is unique in the way that it utilizes automatic responses anytime a resident texts in. So our whole goal with the system is simply to save you guys time, cut down on phone calls, and help residents get to the right place automatically. So anytime, like I said, they text in, they'll get an automatic response. Our system will log all of that information in here. And because you guys own all of that information, you guys can export that data at any time if you do get a FOIA or an open records request. Just to kind of show you what we've been working on, first off is a big part of our system is residents being able to get automatic answers to their questions. So once again, guys, this is all stuff we've created for you. This is all the responses we've created so far. Preston's been really good at this, but he's been creating over 5 different pages of responses. So as you can see here, we've got, a large variety of information, anything from, where agenda information can be found, information about the various boards at the village, even such as contact information, COVID information. If I go here on the 3rd page, I know a big one is going to be like permits as well. So, obviously I'll pull this up. If this is something you guys want to text into yourselves, so you can kind of test out the system, you're more than welcome to. But for example, if someone texts in the word permit, we've got lists, where it goes for the chicken permit, driveway, zoning, building, all the permits. And then we each have those responses set up where it will link them directly to the PDF so that the citizens, residents can be able to find that information at their fingertips without having to do anything except text in a word. So the other cool things as well that the system can do that we have set up for you is the ability for residents to report an issue directly from their cell phone. So for the village, we currently have a couple of options. Obviously, code violation, we know that's a pretty common one. And then as well, any street or road related issues as well, including potholes, fallen mailboxes, fallen trees, that sort of thing. So the way our system works when a resident reports an issue is simply that once they text in, it will ask them a series of questions, providing some brief information. And then once the citizen submits all that information, it will automatically be put into an email. And then it's already been selected where it will go directly to the appropriate department via email. So that way it helps to minimize those phone calls and they will get an email with the information pertaining to that issue. Lastly here as well is the ability to send out some notifications. So as of right now, we've got groups available for general alerts as well as weather alerts to the village, and residents can opt in themselves to receive these notifications. And then you guys can send out mass text messages as well. We've also been working with you guys on the marketing side. So I wanted to show you some examples here. So currently we've been working with the web development to get this put on the actual homepage. And then from there, we'll be able to go live. This is an example, though I've blown it up pretty large so you guys can see it. This is just a blank website. But as you can see here in the corner where it says, text my gov, Village of Roscoe. Here, once again, here's your guys' local number. Here's some examples of things that they can text in. And this will simply be a rotating, widget. Like I said, it'll be smaller than this, but we'll put this on the homepage of the website to let residents know that they can use the system and it is available to them.
Astute has been a part of some of our setup meetings, so they're working with Astute right now to have this widget in the lower right-hand corner all the time on the website as you scroll through. And we're working back and forth to make sure there's the right connectivity from the text platform to the necessary pages in the website.
Yep, absolutely. And then here as well, guys, this is a visual example of how residents would do the notifications. All they need to do is simply text from their phone, Roscoe Alerts as an example, to this 5-digit number here to sign up to receive those notifications. So the whole idea of this system is to keep things simple, both for the village and their residents with their communications. The other thing as well we've provided is some marketing materials with flyers, and this has all been created. This is all included to you guys. I know the plan is to obviously send out this. Social media platforms is a big one. You can put these on the website as well. And then obviously if we get the traction we're looking for, we can even do stuff as, billing or, a mailing blast, something like that. So. And once again, we've got a lot of, this is just kind of a combined example of everything, but we've got, I think, about 4 or 5 different flyer examples for you guys to use.
I think, Spencer, I want to tag on to some of what you've been saying is that the interaction between essentially the bot, between the program, the responses, that leads ultimately to us here at the village receiving a notification or an email, and the different subjects of the text thread route them to correct individuals. I'll probably copy not all of them, but some will go to public works, some will go to administration, ultimately. I will reach a point where some will go to the police department as well. This would certainly not be used as a substitute for 911. This would not be reporting criminal activity, but this could be certainly for code violations, and perhaps that could expand to some parking issues or something. But it's nice that it creates, they have some established what they call workflows that establish the sequence of people receiving notification and then acknowledging receipt and moving on to the next person. They can also, if you didn't mention, when it's they can upload photos to get as well. So if it's a pothole or a mailbox down or something, they can take pictures and send it to us right away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. Yeah. So, that we want to provide you guys a quick overview of the system and what we've been working on. The beautiful thing as well with this is that as, things arise and things change throughout the year, you guys have full access to make any changes, and we can make any additions and grow the system as well. Any questions from any of the members?
How do we measure success of spending $11,000 on a 2-year contract for this? Do you measure it by the number of people who use it, the number of texts? How do you measure that it's been worth the expenditure?
Great question. Yeah, that is definitely a tough question to answer because, every municipality we work with is different. So it's really up to you guys on what you define your success as. Of course, yeah, common metrics, you're exactly right. The amount of messages used in the system, and of course, how many people text in. You can come in here and you can view all this information in here and see all this information like account stats, for example, where you guys can see exactly, okay, how many people do we have, signed up for notifications? How many people have texted in asking questions? What are those common responses? So that's where this is kind of on this page here, which you guys have access to, where you can kind of gauge it for your residents.
I think it's safe to say success is relative, and different people will perceive success however they choose. The board has established increased communication and efficient communication with the residents as a priority. This is another tool. I think simply having it as an option, to be honest with you, success through its implementation. Pick a number that if 100 people use it in a year, I think that would be tremendously successful. I suppose everyone can have their own threshold. If 6 people do, you question it, I suppose, right? But I think my intention is to make a press release about this. I think that this is new enough that this would be a news story, that the village of Roscoe has rolled out this text to the village platform. We want to go as broad and big with the announcement of this as possible, so we'll certainly do it on our social media platforms. Our most powerful megaphone right now is next door. It reaches by far the greatest number of households. But I know Chief Shovelin is willing to put information about it up on the Roscoe Fire Department's message center. We talked to some of the banks that have message centers out at Roscoe and 251. Just as simple as you can now text the village of Roscoe and have the number. And really, it all starts with that first text. And it starts to unroll the process for them. First text.
How is this more, aside from the email response that would be generated, how is this more than just a Google search of our website?
Yeah, great question. So one thing that we found is just as technology has increased and more people have cell phones, is that a lot more people are comfortable with texting versus trying to either, like you mentioned, Googling or trying to go on the website and find the information themselves. So once residents realize that our system will automatically search, create those responses and provide the information, we find that they are a lot more willing to text in questions to find the information they're looking for.
Well, someone can't, what it is, Carol, is more of a replacement for a phone call. And that's where we are in society, is the people's comfort levels with texting versus calling. And is it easier for someone to text a question or report something, or report an issue via text versus call? It's another communication avenue. We make it available to our residents.
But we all realize the flip side of that is a lot of people are not comfortable doing this, and you're still going to get phone calls because people still want to talk to a human being.
Okay.
So, if the goal is to,
I'm not going to argue with it.
if the goal is to reduce the number of phone calls that come in here, that's great, that's laudable. most of them probably want to know when the Secretary of State's office is open or something of that nature. So just do a little study. Give us some metric by which we can justify that after 2 years of this, that it did what we wanted to do. We never defined the problem to begin with when we entered into this. We never established what we wanted to do. We heard that it's going to be a full system. Bells and whistles, sounds really great. What's it going to do? How are we going to measure success? That's all I want.
Do you feel satisfied with your question of what's it going to do yet based upon this presentation?
I'll just wait and see how many people use it.
No, not, I mean, what's it's going to do? I hope, my goal is that you understand the capabilities of the system. Success is going to be to be
It's a new
determined,
thing,
but it is,
you know, people are gonna use it, some are, some aren't. As it expands, you know, people learn to use it, like anything else.
and you're right. Yeah, I think that there is no harm in pursuing as many communication avenues as we can, especially when we started. I'll be honest, I didn't even realize about the alert side of it, of us initiating broadcasts out. Sure, it's another tool to get
Absolutely.
information out. Maybe to a different demographic, maybe to a younger demographic. I don't know. But I think there's value in attempting, and if for a 2-year run, we see that there's been very little activity, then I suppose we'll chalk it up as a work. Mike.
How are the residents gonna know that we received the text? Is there an automatic response?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What added burden is that gonna add to you or our system?
None. So all those are already on. So an initial set of responses acknowledging and steering them happen automatically. And some of them will result in getting them to their desired information without us ever having to play a role in it at all. We'll know that it happened, but there might be no necessary follow-up with action. Now, if someone is using this as an avenue to submit our information request, to report a violation, or to initiate the process of a permit application, it'll let them get all the way to the permit. They will have given their address and what it is they're looking to permit already. We'll get that email. So we're already 3 steps ahead of the process before they walk in or announce or call and start this with a whole series of phone conversations. If it reduces my phone time, any appreciable amount, it'll mean a lot to me.
So did I hear correctly? This will be integrated finally to our revised code of ordinances, so that when somebody here has a question about fences and they can text in fence, they'll go immediately to our zoning rewrite, and up will come everything they need to know about fences. Is that how this is going to work?
I think it depends on what they're asking about.
Well, they want to know, what are the setbacks for fences? How high can my fence be? What materials can I use? Do I need a fence permit? So if someone types in any of those types of questions, did I understand this to mean this will be integrated with our new revised zoning ordinance, and they will get a PDF of everything that they need to know about fences, as opposed to going through the revised ordinance or the revised code and finding it for themselves? Is that how this is going to work? Is it cross-referenced in that way?
I assume that is a capability of the program. We have that. Spencer, you can speak directly to it. It currently right now is not set up to take someone to a subsection of the zoning code. We haven't discussed that yet. Right now, you can certainly write them, take them to a link to the entire zoning code of ordinances. It also takes them to the applicable permits and describes the requirements of the permit application. To your point and your request, we'll investigate whether a keyword, we need to figure out how that keyword navigates those routes or navigates to either the application or someone is looking for the specific ordinance language of that section. I'm sure that's possible.
And if I don't find it, I pick up the phone and I call.
Yeah, and
Just
great.
confuses me a little bit, but I'm happy to entertain it.
No, it's, well, you know how I feel about our website. And I think there are some problems with it. I think it can be a great system. I'll just be cautiously optimistic. All I want to know is that we spent $12,000, $11,000, and we're going to get some bang for the buck. So I'll wait and see after 2 years.
Well, get some bang for the buck.
Yes.
I would say that if you see something that the system doesn't have, bring it up, put it into. Like, again, one of the things that Spencer was saying is you kind of grow it or build it how you want over time. It's not gonna have every little thing right when you roll it out. They're just trying to get as much as they can think of and do that.
Definitely add to it.
I think
It's a great suggestion. I want to put some thought into how you would navigate it there. How you need to know that that's what they're asking. Right, so.
maybe a keyword for ordinances and
Yeah.
have a list of different ordinances.
Yeah. Spencer, if you're still on, I assume if someone put in fence, we could maybe then split that into options of to link to the zoning permit application required for the fence or link to applicable ordinance language, and they could somehow pick an option that took them either direction.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Like currently, if we look at permit, you know, if for example, we have it listed to all the different permits, but yeah, if we created a response in here for fence, and I looked while you guys were talking, I pulled it up on my computer, kind of where you guys have the online code. And so, yeah, it would be as simple as copying that link over to the online ordinance database, specifically to that section for fences, for example. But yeah, we can include multiple links if you want one for the ordinance, as well as, you know, hey, to find the actual permit application PDF, you can click this link here.
But also, anytime they get to our ordinance page, that's really, if that's what we did, if their query links onto our code of ordinances, if we can bring it to the exact page, that's great. But of course, there's a keyword search right there as well too. So once in the ordinances, type fence, and everything fence. It's a great suggestion. Mike.
I just would like to say that, to me, this sounds like a fabulous opportunity to communicate more with the residents of Roscoe. Limit your phone time, golf hour, your, whatever you want to call it. And I would caution that it's working when we first roll it out. They'll roll it out with a bunch of bugs that didn't go oops, because word of mouth is both good and bad.
Yeah.
So the other thing is I would not expect to see this jump out and have 3,000 hits on it, you know, the first 6 months.
Right.
It's something that's going to have to spread, or one neighbor talks to another and goes, well, just go to this particular site and you can get all your answers from that. So I would just caution patience and do it right the first time.
Agreed. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, no, I think we beat it up enough, so.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Preston and Spencer, thanks for your help throughout
Nice,
this.
be safe.
Presentation, thank you.
Item 5.2, discussion and recommendation for the board of revisions to the special event permit ordinance and application forms. We'll talk about it tonight. It'll be on the next committee agenda as well, because I don't have the revised text, the ordinance language of the permit forms and the application forms themselves finalized. What I do want to talk about is the concept and elements of it that we're integrating. I want to make sure that you guys are okay with all of them, that they meet your expectations or things we talked about. So I'm going to briefly go through this and then take any questions or comments you might have. One of the big things that was, I think has been insufficiently defined or addressed through our ordinance is when is a special event permit required? Because what we had, our language specifically is if the event was more than if it was occurring on village-owned property and involved 50 people or more. And this would be a village, or if it included a closure of a village street, but excluding block parties. Block parties didn't need board approval necessarily. They still would have a special event permit. Or if it created, what's the exact language, interference with traffic on village streets or sidewalks. But nowhere did it really talk about an event held on private property, again, unless you raise to the level of interference with streets. So that's a key thing to address in this. And we'll keep those proposed, but I'll use from trigger events, things that trigger the need for a permit. We'll keep those as they're listed. I want to be clear, our ordinance isn't bad. Our ordinance is pretty solid. We can just expand and add to it and clarify. So we want to include events or gathering on private property. And here are, based on researching a lot of other people's ordinances, what we think are some of the more well-defined trigger events would be the use of a designated parking area for any use other than parking. You're setting up a festival, you're setting up a food, beer garden, you're setting up a band, you're setting up any kind of gathering in a parking lot, then that triggers the event or triggers the need for a permit. An event that results in the gathering of people in excess of what would generally be expected during regular business operations. Or for any event that involves live entertainment. And I don't know if it's as simple as live entertainment, or perhaps it's live entertainment that includes amplified sound, but some version of that. So that's a broadening of the events that would require one. And because it's in our minds, we can think of the event that was held at Main Street Square this past year, which again, the letter of the law is very questionable of whether that needed a special event permit. We obviously know it would require a temporary liquor license permit, but did it require a special event permit? It certainly would under this. We talked about when at the end of last year, when we talked about a need to address the special event, it's talking about should we have a tiered system? Should we have different requirements or different permits for different events? Some communities do that, but it's really bigger ones. It's really Chicago's and larger metropolitan areas that break them out by event size. And to be honest, it's when they're starting to address things that are much bigger than anything we do. And I don't know that there's sufficient distinction to be made between different attendance levels, except for we will recommend that we break it into two different categories. The block parties need their own separate special event permit, and that assemblies, every other gathering, be a separate one. The assemblies will come with more stringent requirements, board approval. That's where we'll have the insurance requirements and some other pre-event inspections, which I'll get into in a minute. But so that's how we are proposing right now to address gatherings of different sizes or differentiate between different events requiring the permit is simply creating a block party category and an assembly category.
Excuse me. An assembly is anything other than a block party.
That's exactly right.
So
Yep.
a wedding in Leland Park.
Yes.
Rock band in your backyard.
So one thing I noticed is the role beyond just what we do now, but the role of a fire department or a building department. A lot of other communities involve those two in the approval and permitting process of a special event. We currently don't. Now, that's not to say that we don't just as common sense involve the fire department in large events like the Fall Festival or when Nelly's did their trunk sale or mud volleyball. But also, there are communities that require the issuance of an actual building permit for any erected structures over a certain size. So we've been in communication and met with both Harlem Roscoe Fire and the building department. The building department here is not interested in issuing actual building permits for temporary structures for that. What they do, and they're already doing, this is a system they have in place that they do elsewhere in the county, is they partner with whatever the local fire authority is, here would be Harlem Roscoe Fire Department, and they conduct something called a code compliance inspection in advance of the event, and they have a pre-established checklist for that. If there's food service involved, sometimes they'll bring the health department along as well, and be part of that code compliance checklist. We want to make that mandatory for the special event assembly. Now, I would want to give Chief Evans probably the authority to waive that if we felt it was a small event that still trickled into the assembly category. But by and large, I think the expectation is we would require it at all times. They usually do that event, that inspection, the scheduling of the inspection will be the responsibility of the applicant. It will be identified on their application checklist. They have to submit evidence that they have scheduled it. The inspections are usually done 24 hours in advance of the event. And so that would be the final step in that process to make sure they've done that. The county does those, like I said, cooperative with Harlem Roscoe, and they charge $60 for that inspection. I want to make that a requirement.
Is this something that is inspected by the fire department, or would our code compliance officer be involved in?
It is a building inspector from Winnebago County Building Department and a designee from Harlem Roscoe to examine life safety issues and emergency access issues.
Nothing involved for our code compliance officer.
We could elect to participate at the time, but generally speaking, that's the role we play anyway with their submitted site plans and our understanding of discussing the event. Our approval of the special event permit pretty much is already includes compliance with Roscoe, those are Roscoe codes. This is a chance to make sure that the event is also complying with building codes and life safety issues from the fire department. I imagine we might tag along on this business anyway. Garage sales. We have just currently not included garage sales as being a special event permit. Garage sales still seem to be maybe a bit of an undefined, have an undefined approach to this, but what we want to make sure is we want to require any kind of community or collective garage sale does require a special event permit. They just don't right now, and they should. So we worked in a couple different ways to define that. So like anything that is marketed or advertised on social media or with physical signs as being a neighborhood or a garage sale will require a special event permit, or any simultaneous conducting of garage sales of either 50 of them or 10% of any given subdivision being a trigger to requiring a special event, a collective special event permit. Look, I know that is a snowball effect into individual garage sale permits again. I do not mind telling you I have been extremely hesitant to do that. That strikes me as tremendous staff burden. I'm not saying I'm not refusing to do it if that's the direction we are taking. But I think at a minimum, we make sure that community or neighborhood garage sales are addressed as requiring a special event permit. And go through this whole process of having bonding, it gives us the opportunity then to require reimbursement for staff time, for public works involvement, for police department involvement, which I think we do. We do sometimes now for some events, and I just want to make sure that's memorialized for anything that requires the special event permit. We have good language requiring that in our current ordinance. I just want to make sure that it's front and center, that it's very clearly spelled out. That is part of a checklist they submit. They're acknowledging the reimbursement, and to the best of our ability, I think we can maybe do a little better job of providing advanced estimates of what those costs might be. Fees, we don't charge any fee right now. I don't think we should charge a fee for the block party ones, but I would propose charging a $100 fee for special event assembly permits. And this would be separate from, in addition to the $60 code compliance inspection fee that would go to the building department,
Which is the problem.
which is Winnebago County. So those are key elements that we want to introduce. And I suppose it's appropriate. I'd like to hear your thoughts on those being appropriate, sufficient, insufficient. Trustee Dusty.
I go to text my government. I need a special event permit. This will lead me to which person? Who begins this? You, the chief of police? Where does this permit process begin?
Text by gov would lead you first to the application forms, would have an instruction sheet. The instruction sheet would spell out that they are submitted to the chief of police.
Okay, then secondly, I see here that, oops, I missed the 45-day prior approval time. How are we really going to stick to that? I mean, we have people coming all the time. They're like the planning phase problem for us. And we always want to do the best we can for our residents. And I know it's always hard to tell people no. And it puts us in a very uncomfortable position and all of that stuff. Are we really going to stick to 45-day prior?
I would expect that, especially in the initial rollout of this, maybe throughout the first year, you consider leniency when it's, I mean, it still has to hit 2 board meetings, you know, so we should honor a certain time frame, and maybe it is a matter of telling people. One thing we can do is we can go back through those that are regular and repeating submitters. So we know different, we obviously know the big events. We know a lot of the runs that happen annually, a lot of the smaller charity or fundraising events. We can certainly communicate to them that here's the new process, here's the revisions to the ordinance language, here's the new form. Please be mindful of the submittal timeline. Carol, obviously the decision to do you make special concession for a late applicant is is ours to make, right?
It always puts us in a bind.
Yeah,
Would that apply to block parties too?
no, the block, right now is this, the block parties would not come to you. Right now,
Would they be 45 days?
I don't know, I'm not sure. I don't even remember, we talked about those, but I know that we decided on a timeline that would correspond to the requirement of coming to your meetings, but we could perhaps have a shorter advance notice when you want a block party.
We just need enough time for the barricades to be sent to them,
Yeah.
and then my question too was, do they pay for the barricades?
So I can understand wanting as much lead time, because if
Yeah.
you're going to have street closure, whatever, you have staff or PD that you've got to schedule and all that kind of stuff. So it's reasonable to me. I just want to make sure that, do we have a backbone and are we going to stick to it? Because it becomes problematic when,
Yeah. And I don't want to be inconsistent in the enforcement, but I think that the answer to it, could you accommodate a late application, would have a lot to do with what the event is. If it's a complicated event, it needs a lot of advanced coordination, we might say, no, you have to pay the every day, you have not submitted soon enough. If it is a small little wedding in a park, then maybe we can see if it was reasonable to get approved. Like,
Could you explain about the garage sale again? For example, if there's a subdivision, you said 10%, meaning like 10 garages in that subdivision?
10% would be if there was,
10 houses.
so 50 at a minimum, but let's say there was only 200 lots in a particular subdivision. 20 would trigger it. 10% of the total number of lots in that subdivision would trigger the special event permit.
I'm thinking of personally, my subdivision, I think there's 100 homes or
Right,
something.
110 houses.
If we had 10%, that's 10 garages, and then it's gonna create a traffic problem.
Let's talk about that. It's, I'm here to acknowledge that the garage sales have been a tricky one for us.
Traffic problems, smile or Chicory Ridge.
Maybe it's,
That's where.
maybe it's 20%, you know, maybe if you keep 50, at, you know, if you, yeah, somewhat to Chicory proof all these requirements, but so if it's, maybe it's 20% or 25%, but then you still have 50 as a threshold, because to reach, you know, Chicory has about 800.
Yeah, ours would be.
800 of them, so if you set 20%, you can't, you know, that's 160, that's a very high threshold in Chicory. So,
I think your language, which says 50 homes or 10% of the individual sizes in the neighborhood, whichever number is smaller, is reasonable. It's everything.
well, but to your point, maybe it's not, maybe the 10% as a smaller number is unreasonable in a smaller neighborhood, because if 10, maybe 10 homes is too small of a number to trigger.
But to take ours specifically, 10 and ours would create a problem because of the horseshoe configuration of the subdivision. So 10 people at a garage sale, you've got cars parked all over. It's going to be a problem. So I don't see a problem with the 50 or 10% of the individual neighborhood, whichever number is smaller. That gets everything without having to minutely look at every subdivision.
And obviously,
And we don't have anybody in our neighborhood who's been organized.
let's be honest, that's really right now what we're trying to get at. And we're getting at the advertised, organized ones that we all know create significant parking and traffic issue. Let's tackle the known problem, and I think this lets us do that. And if we then figure out a better way to expand, if we feel that there are other smaller issues by smaller groupings of garage sales that might not be advertised as a video or sale, this gives us a tool to at least start to attack that issue. But I think it's honest to say that this is trying to get language in that allows us to require a permit of the known community-wide garage sales. That is now currently known as for a permit.
So let's take the Cherry Ridge one. Marshall,
Yeah, not at all.
would they be required to pay the $100
Yes,
assembly fee? And give at least 45-day notice and
Yes.
all of that other planning stuff.
that's my intent for my role in preparing this, yes.
And if no one does, and some people continue. How are we? Where are we going to go? Where are we willing to go with our enforcement?
That is the issue always, but it's particularly to me, the issue with garage sale. And if we get to the level of requiring individual garage sale permits all the time, which is kind of the direction this goes, to be honest. We're not there yet. To be clear, that's not what we're requiring as part of this. But if we did, we implemented individual garage sale permit requirement, what is the enforcement and what is the punishment? And is that something we feel we can, we will and can fairly enforce? And I don't know the answer to that. We're gonna dedicate, I mean, think about like the dedicated patrol on weekends that we'd have to let you go around and examine every garage sale. See their permit, and see if they have a permit.
Even at a big event, you had a group that didn't come in. And that's obviously something to think about when we got tonight, or to decide tonight, but I mean, they're even coming to you if we're enforcing this. And we'll be coming to you when we're enforcing this and asking, what do you want us to do? So, an example would be, you have a garage sale group, people doing a garage sale, 10, 15 people in the neighborhood doing a garage sale at the same time. Nobody comes in for their permit, no one requests it. What do you want us to do to enforce it? Do you want us to issue citations to each of those people? Do we want to? Do you want to do that? Do you want to just say no, we don't do it? Do you want? I mean, it's how you want to enforce it.
Yeah. So
and we can certainly enforce it. It's just a matter of knowing that it's what you, as the decision makers here, are going to support and want.
to my mind, if you were advertising at Chicory Ridge or who else is or a Sagewood garage sale, the fact that you're advertising as such indicates that there's some component of organization there. Someone at least was in charge of running an ad, right? So we need to.
They also solicit contributions.
Yeah.
Maybe that can also be part of the language. If they solicit contributions, they're running a business, they're running a resale business. If they are soliciting contributions from other homeowners in the subdivision to defray the cost of advertising or anything else, it takes it to a different level, in my opinion, than just Carol Gustafson having a garage sale. And coincidentally, Mike Dunn has one the same weekend.
I agree. That's
And
a
we did
component of
not
knowledge.
collaborate on it. That
Agreed.
it's different.
Chief, if you'd like to discuss over to,
Oh, I've got a couple things coming up.
sure.
So can we-
Well, no, Carol, I don't know, it doesn't change the fact that we are already requiring a permit of that event. I agree with you that that's all the more reason to, but I don't think that it changes the permit that they need or anything, whether they're charging or not. I think that, we identify an organizing entity that has to apply, we have to provide the compliance documents that we require as part of the permit. To be honest, to me, then that covers that neighborhood, and it's up to them to figure out whether people are adequately contributing and participating.
I guess I didn't make myself clear. What I was getting at when we were posing the rhetorical question, what are we willing to enforce? I would not be willing to cite someone who was having a garage sale because, oops, they didn't get a permit or something, or
Right.
they didn't know about it. Whereas when you have a wholesale one all of the time, then that's visible.
See, Tony has his hand up. Tony, I'm not sure how to do this, so just go ahead, Tony.
My Wi-Fi dropped out for a minute. Did we move our text gov onto the board for a vote?
No, there was just an informational presentation, Tony. There's no vote needed. There have been a request by a trustee to have them present
Okay,
what they can do. So that's all that was, informational presentation.
all right. Well, I apologize, but we got a little bit of a storm out in the desert right now, and it blanked out for a couple seconds. It's been doing that off and on all day.
Does he know we've already purchased it?
Tony, I don't know if you're aware, this is an agreement we've already entered into text by gov. We appropriated it at budget time, and the agreement was on a previous agenda. I'm sure Tony was part of that. So Tony was part of the meeting where we voted on that.
Okay, well, I'm good.
Thanks. So are we, in the interest of time, there's no, I don't have objection to the elements that we've proposed. And I'll actually, will now finalize the two different application documents and checklist and figure out with Joe's assistance, how ordinance language has to be rewritten to acknowledge this.
So can we visit this committee of the whole when you have the total package in a couple of weeks?
Yep, that is the intent.
For the,
Thank you.
I do have a question there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For the garage sales, are you gonna do the code compliance as well? 'Cause I know sometimes they'll have a food truck. You said that's part of your code compliance, so.
Yep.
I mean, $100 is kind of stretching it in garage sales as it is, I think.
You treat them like residential black property.
$100 is stretching it for,
As far as getting them to pay for the application, they're not gonna like that already.
for a community garage, I mean, it might not,
Yeah.
but I think.
I
That's what we're gonna do.
I'm just saying, and then adding another $60 on top of that.
I don't, that's a good question, and I don't know, I don't know that there'd be anything there for them to expect. I don't think they're going to expect individual homes garage sales. If there was, no, I don't think they'd expect a food truck. I suspect. No, the community garage sale would not require a full compliance inspection, but that's just my extreme from the hip answer to you.
You treat them like residential block apartments, parties or until you get stuff there. I think then you're still doing the same inspections, you're still doing the same payments with the police department, you're still doing the same public works reimbursements.
Yeah.
But then you don't trigger that higher plat fee maybe, or you don't trigger the inspections if they don't have it.
Right.
As soon as they hit the big events where we see them, when they've got food trucks, and they've got tents and bathrooms and everything else, that's no longer a residential block event, that's a.
My goal was to keep the requirements in the rest of the default and allow it to be waived at our discretion.
Excuse me a second. Justin, in Hickory Ridge, the garage sale holders had food trucks.
They usually have like an ice cream truck or something staged at one end or the other. Over by the park.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, it's a big event.
Good day to stay away from Chicory Ridge.
It is indeed.
trying to get back to my house once. So that's why I take my motorcycle.
I was just gonna say, that's why you bring a car.
Is that any other question?
Maybe we can switch to the garage sale and black parties on 30 days. Just because they probably won't have as much advance notice as a bigger event, like you're saying, the assemblies or whatever.
Or I think a big community garage sale would, but
You would think, but.
yeah.
Don't they do it at the same time, same month?
Right, I'm not just thinking of just
You're-
Chicory Ridge, though. Obviously, they would know about it, but if somebody else decided, like your neighborhood, wanted to do it, but they don't know the rules. And they're now 20.
Well, the two that we know about, well, we can let them know that, hey, this is updated, revised, and revised. You might not have in the past, or wasn't enforced in the past. The 45 days on that one really is has to do with the timing of being able to get it in front of you for consideration. That's why the block parties probably don't need a 45-day window, but we'll talk about the garage sales. Right. Right, we continue to the next meeting. 5.3, discussion or recommendation of the board to approve an MOU between the Office of Attorney General and the Village of Roscoe regarding participation in the Illinois Internet Child Exploitation Task Force. The information drive without, please, next to, if you don't mind, I'll go and address them briefly or tell what it's about.
So this will be this is the second time we've been a part of this. The first time was many, many months ago, and it's evolved since then. But basically, we'll have our detectives go to a class, it's a 40-hour class that the Attorney General puts on, and that we become part of this team where there's a database with all kinds of people who are looking at, child pornography or any kind of sexual exploitation of a child kind of case. And their IP address goes into this database. And then different officers who are part of this team throughout the entire state get assigned to a case. So the case might not be in Roscoe. It could be in Rockford, it could be in, it'd be somewhere within a radius of us so that we can handle it. But then our detective will be assigned to it and then he'll start working on it. Or if we're too busy to handle that at the time, let's say we have another major case going on, we can say, we're gonna forego this case this time, give it to somebody else, we'll take the next one. But I guess it's a constantly revolving door of cases that that he'll be working, and it involves computer work, it involves search warrants, and then when it's time to actually go to somebody's house, it'll involve the full team of people that specialize in breaking down doors. So
I think we need to be a part of it.
very excited to do this.
We need to do our part.
So moved.
We have a motion. Second, trustee Clark. So we have a motion to move this on to the board of recommendation. Trustee Clark, what was that?
At least wait until the motion's read. For a second.
Second was trustee Malco. Any other discussion, comments, questions?
Was there any, you have someone in mind?
Yeah, with us, Ryan Kelly, he just took over Chris Wilder's position
The training will take place,
within 6 months.
and is it a virtual
Nope,
training type of?
it's all paid for by the state and wherever they get him a class, so it could be done for.
Thank you.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Stephanie, clerk would call the roll. Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Flock,
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. 5.4 is discussion or recommendation to the board to approve amendments to the intergovernmental agreement, Winnebago Boone County's Integrity Task Force. This is not down there prematurely last time. I apologize for that, but we now have the big documents.
We do, yeah, I put everything in there. There was some red line documents, but or red line areas from before, because this, I believe, first went out in, I want to say it was like 2008, and this is the first time it's been revised. And I didn't see, Joe said there was a lot of changes, but that's an attorney saying that. I didn't see a lot.
Yeah, I think it was just they pulling apart how they,
Yeah, it's got changed, right?
Are there subsequent changes to it, Joe?
I don't believe so, no. I think they showed more types of cases that will investigate. And they sort of pulled apart the procedure out of the agreement. They actually made a sort of separate procedure document.
Yeah, one thing I noticed was, it doesn't have to be a death, it could be a serious injury.
Yeah, it looks like 3 or 4.
What they call.
Sure. Well, we're good.
Do we have a motion to move the amendment, approving the amendment onto the board?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Dunn, second by trustee Platt. Any further questions or comments? Clerk, will you please call the roll.
Keen,
Yes.
Flock,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Petty.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion approved 6-0. Item 5.5 is discussion or recommendation of the board for approval of a resolution to enter into an agreement with Miller Engineering for annual preventative maintenance for the village HVAC systems for quarter price of $21.60. Never done anything like this before. We don't have any come out on any regular routine basis to do preventative maintenance or inspect equipment. We have been having a lot of system failure lately. I don't know if it's the age of our systems when this starts to happen. But we only respond when things break. We don't do anything to maintain or try to detect us in advance. What I want to tell you though is right now, two bits of information. The quoted price for the visits and Troy gets the agreement, the proposals in there, Troy can sort of speak to it. He's point on this. The prices were $2,160 a year. I did ask what a price would be if we wanted to explore a multi-year agreement. They would do a 3-year agreement if at our choice, holding that rate steady, or we could do a 1-year agreement and see if it goes to the next year. However, this proposal was just for this building, just for Village Hall and the police department. And I think Troy has since asked them to consider adding the mechanical systems of Public Works and for our academy as well. Troy, I don't think we have that updated number yet, though.
No, sir, we have not got that yet.
So I guess this is really, at this point, is going to be a request or a strong pull maybe to see is a preventative maintenance relationship, something you see value in and want to pursue. And so we could move it on with the revised quote reflect the new buildings. And would we want to just do it for 1 year to lock or 3 years lock with us? So those are just very also for their consideration. Trustee Guston.
Are there other organizations that can provide us with the service as well? I know we don't have to go out for competitive bids because of the amount, but in the past, when we had done things under previous superintendents, we at least got comparative quotes. So who else is this out there besides Miller Engineering that can do this? And if we're going to do it, it seems reasonable that we do it for every unit throughout our system. And when I look through it, it just seemed as though they're going to expect, they'll change filters, but any repairs, of course, are on top of this inspection fee, correct?
That is true.
So I'd like to know who else might be able to do it, who's willing to do it, and a complete list, again, a revised list of all the equipment that would be inspected. So Troy, who else out there can provide this service besides Miller Engineering? There are lots of companies.
Oh, sure, area mechanical, there's a whole list.
I'll just interject just quickly. We should, that's absolutely fine. So at the next meeting, you'll see we have a recommendation. Again, this was for a budgeted item, but for a replacement of the existing furnace at Public Works. And I know that in that we did take 3 different quotes. Maybe we go back to the same people. I think Troy, was Miller low on the 3 quotes on the replacement of the furnace at Public Works?
That is correct. They're the lowest bid on the 3 different companies.
We had total Miller and report. Helm. Oh, I'm not inspecting what's on that one. Yeah, I think for Miller has been our default, keeper of the systems.
I get it. I was just curious because I looked at their hourly rate and it's like, wow, that was a sticker shock. So, no idea.
Never have come to your house.
I do. No, I have a contractor that I have in twice a year, because I have 4 units that we inspect regularly. And so, so I know the value of it. I was just curious as to cost and competitiveness. But back to the furnace for Public Works, for the building that now exists, and then when we do the addition, we're going to have these systems. They're separate, integrated, or what's going to be happening here?
Brandon, you want to address that? You're still on? I think it's a hybrid.
So we can't put off until we get the new one.
I can answer that, Scott. If
Go ahead, Troy.
for the new building, it's this furnace. It's not air conditioned.
I know that there's, so does this furnace, the furnace that we're replacing that heats and conditions air in the existing building won't also be providing the hot air for the new addition, correct? It will, there's a different gas line going out and new heaters out there, correct?
Correct. This one will be coming at the next meetings, just for our Public Works offices, the front building. All the old shop and then the new shop has its own gas line, and there's 4 big furnaces for the old shop, and I want to say 2's going in the new shop.
Can we have an assessment of the furnaces we currently have and their ages and if they should be replaced?
And air conditioning.
Yeah, and AC units.
Does any of this extend to inspecting the ventilation and gun range too? Is that separate? To do that separate?
No, that's for a separate. Yes, that's. And I think that would be maybe a reasonable expectation is for anyone we enter but in a maintenance agreement is to establish, starting with the baseline.
That's right.
Here's what you have,
That's
here's this condition now. Here's what we're gonna be mindful of and watching for.
And that,
Absolutely.
that makes sense to me.
Makes perfect sense.
And if we need to replace it, replace it.
Well, we've had some major ones replaced, that's. for
Yeah.
I we can look at other prices for sure. I know that well, obviously I fully support that. And that's just the way we normally do things. I just wonder in this case, if there isn't the sort of institutionalized involvement of this one company in our systems that has value to it. And that's probably why we ask this of them, is that's who we always call and who has the
Dependable, reliable.
and understands our system. You know, you get people out here
Troubleshooting.
that work on it all the time.
You know. Absolutely.
No, I don't have a problem with the company. As I said, I looked at the hourly rates. For changing filters and inspections. But we need a more comprehensive, as you said, all of the equipment, starting point. So where do you want to go with this? To the board with all that revision, or committee of the whole again when you have the whole package together? What's the need? What's the urgency?
I think it's okay to bring it back to committee. I don't think there's any sense of immediate urgency. So we will do that. This will be on the next committee agenda again. And we can partner that with we'll have an agenda item for the request for the first thing. So we can just bundle that up. Any old business?
I have something under your business.
We do our, I don't know why, but our historically our agenda formats are different from board to committee. So everything we've been talking about has been new business. So
Okay.
just chime in there, it's fine.
I received a call from a constituent asking me if I knew about a public hearing regarding the Petrie development, and I didn't. And I wondered why wasn't the board alerted if all those neighbors in Hawks Point were?
With apologies, and you know, that was insisted in my mechanism to inform you was through the update memos that I started to send out. And I just kept working on the same damn memo as more and more stuff came up. And by the time I sent it to you,
I never got it at all.
I mean, you never got it.
I only received two. One's in January.
I never got.
I sent it out this past
anything.
Friday, which 4 weeks worth of it. 3 weeks worth of it. Well, then I sincerely apologize. I thought I'd already sent all this out with a long explanation.
No. And the constituent also had art designs. I mean, Janelle had sent him. And then he sent me.
I don't know. I don't know how this happened. I sent it out, but I only got 3 email addresses and before I could send it. I have no idea how or why.
I got it.
You're important.
No, that is.
Me and Mark and other ones that got it.
Oh, that's 2 Mark Zulas.
Yep.
When's how many days we know
Cause I didn't look to us now.
Not like I clicked on the.
Yeah, I know, I got it, I read it, I think everybody got it.
So I will forward it to everyone right now, but since it's been brought up here. This one is sensitive enough that I did want, there's a long explanation, we've been meeting for some time on this.
Yeah. I mean, I know.
But generally speaking, the path these take is public notice, zoning board of appeals, and FPU. This one, by name attachment alone, probably rises to the level of having a unique amount of attention. So this is as, pardon? You think?
So is
So this is the
this going to go
28th.
to our village emails, or do we have to go to Outlook and download it? Is.
There's not a difference.
Oh, that's right, that's right. So did you just sign that?
I'll call for right now. I can't.
See, as soon as we get that gov in place, you will, his brain will be a little bit less stressed.
No, there's no excuse.
Text it to the whole village. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
The public notice,
It's in our
so you know.
Right. Am I getting it again? Or just-
No, you don't have
So how many of these memos have you sent out? Because I just remember,
this is the third one.
okay,
You know what, why don't I just, because we're discussing it, I'll tell you how.
Things do happen, that's for sure.
That's,
All we know.
it's here. Thank you.
Welcome.
yeah. All right, so what I said is this one has moved quite a bit since the last memo. The property in question is the 20 acres directly north of Ox Point subdivision. This will be Joshua Petry's first attempt at developing property on his own. Neither Jeff nor Jennifer are involved in this development. He's being assisted by Art Design Resources. We've had several meetings over the past few weeks. The intent is to develop 18 acres as multifamily townhomes, leaving 2 acres at the southeast corner of Roscoe and Old River. So the 2 acres at the corner there for commercial development. The entire parcel is currently zoned CG, commercial general. So the development will require a map amendment to change the zoning to RM, multifamily residential. They'll have to submit a plat plat and development plans for board approval. The property has never been platted. There is not a recorded plat on this.
Oh, wow, we got one.
Hey.
Wow.
They are proposing to develop the subdivision to our full urban standard, complete with curb and gutter, sidewalks, and storm sewer. Plans appear to comply with all applicable ordinance. They are asking for no variances. There will be an extension of Hawks Point Drive north of Roscoe Road. The new east-west road, tentatively named Sparrow Lane, that will connect out to Old River, just north of the water tower. Public hearing to initiate the process will be conducted as part of our ZBA meeting Wednesday, March 23rd at 5:30 p.m. The project will hit committee of the whole on March 1st and eventually to the board final action on March 15th. I will forward you my staff report to the ZBA once completed, and that is in process.
Now, your memo says the meeting is March 23rd. Why was that?
February
How is it
23rd.
that- Yeah, your memo says Wednesday, March 23rd, but the meeting is February?
February 20th,
Okay.
Wait from the,
next Wednesday. Not tomorrow, next Wednesday.
Scott, is this something that's here?
Right there.
Is this something sort of like Hidden Creek where the neighbors got together and wanted an impact study on the roads and stuff by Winnebago County? Would that be applicable in this situation also?
Perhaps.
You know, multi-family dwelling in that area is going to add a lot of traffic to what we already have.
It's, yeah, obviously everyone, all these in the county, the reclamation district, the fire, the water department, everyone will be slated for this plat. Everyone reviews this plat and has a chance to weigh in. This is much different than the Hidden Creek where someone has an existing property and just wanting to add this use to it. This is undeveloped land. So this will go through the entire plat review process by all, applicable county review entities. So the county will have their chance to say, we need this to make this. So far, we've conducted meetings with fire and fire, water, and sewer, and made the county generally aware that it's in the works.
Could I get a copy from you?
Yes.
I mean, our copy.
You know how many there?
Yeah, I saw
Names of
that.
that, 37 4-family units.
37.
Well, the neighbors are talking about, I think, 137.
No, what's 37 times 4? I think
35.
No, they're talking about 35 units of 4.
37.
35.
So he just confirmed
Yeah, so it's,
140.
And they're 3 bedrooms?
they have 3 bedrooms.
I've gotten them.
people are having smaller families.
But from a language standpoint, it's not inappropriate. Development approach, but it.
Best part is it's not loud. Best part is we have to use everything that we.
So yeah, it obviously has to comply, is not, that's what complies with full,
They're not asking for any variance.
you know, for full urban. And, I think that's what that case. And obviously, since this is not only have a bad impact fees will be attached.
Those three kids are still fighting among themselves as to how to divide this.
So I encourage anybody who want to attend, next Wednesday, please do so. I don't like.
Yeah.
Can you update, fix that? You sent it? I can write it down, I guess, or just, yeah, I'll write it
Just one track.
I'm writing it down. Why don't I send you all a meeting?
down. The only problem with that is.
Okay.
There you
Yeah,
go. With Scott, list everybody.
Yeah. Not too soon.
And you're looking the same.
That's, hey, things happen, man. We gotta give you a little bit of a hard time.
No, I'm very disappointed. Public comment or any other old business?
We have no one here. Even
No
though
public comment,
spiders are sleeping.
no need for executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, before you move on, just before you move on. When you sent that memo, you included the spot that was included in the Balsley printing that comes out quarterly or something like that.
Mhm.
And I forgot to mention it to you. I got one at my home several weeks ago, and I knew when I read it that you wrote it. You did a very good job.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so nicely done.
Thank you. Appreciate
And it just,
Makes up for your memo.
that. Thank you. I'm glad they reached out and asked.
I checked on the plotting lady.
I don't.
I know a lot of these are, but
That's Studio 21, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
that's right.
I call, my rate is
Yeah.
Come on.
I make a motion to adjourn.
$85 a class.
Second motion.
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. Clerk, call the roll.
Dunn,
Yes.
Petty,
yes,
Gustafson,
yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Plot.
Yes. So let me have to turn it down. Let me I'll correct the date on it. Ow. Okay.